Good afternoon, everybody. Very warm welcome to your Edcover webinar. I'm Anthony McBride, and I'll be your host for the next 20, maybe 25 minutes. I'm delighted this afternoon that we're joined by Angela Easton. Angela is Assistant Principal at the Hathershaw College in Manchester, and hopefully later we'll hear from Angela about their implementation of the Edcover platform and perhaps some of the benefits that they've seen with that. A little bit of housekeeping, everybody, just to begin with. You've probably already realised that you're muted, but we do welcome questions throughout the session. So what we'll do, you can submit your questions via the button at the bottom right of your screen. So if you have any questions, please do type them in there as they come up. We'll collate these as we go along, and I'll attempt to answer them at the end if that's okay. Right, for my part, I promise I'll be as succinct as possible. I'm very aware you've probably had a really long day, and no doubt you'll be looking forward to your half-term break as well. It should, in theory, be very straightforward, as most of what I want to cover, it's basically shaped by experiences that all or most of us will have in common. We will have a tour of the Edcover platform, brief tour, and I'll give you some information as to how you can access an extended free trial, should you wish to, by virtue of your attendance today. I'm also really conscious that we've got some schools with us that are already using Edcover, so again, a very warm welcome to you, and I hope that you too find something useful in the session. So before I get into the detail of what I want to talk about, just very quickly, I'd like to give you some background as to who we are and the rationale that led us to create Edcover. So our organisation has a really proud history of creating some groundbreaking software solutions. So just to give you an example, the Askell data toolkit, that was a huge help to many secondary schools across the land during the pandemic as they processed their CAGs and their tags. And that was us. And we're really proud to have been involved in projects like that. So onto Edcover then. As former leaders in secondary schools themselves, the directors at Edcover, they were all too familiar with the negative association or connotation between cover lessons and learning. So there's lots of evidence to confirm what for me is a fairly logical hypothesis. It's on your screen at the moment on the left-hand side. When the regular class teacher is not present, learning and progress suffer. Okay. Now, there are many factors, but some of the factors contributing to this negative trend, they're there on the right-hand side of your screen. And I think it's fair to say that none of those can be considered in isolation. So if we take behaviour, for example, when we talk to schools, they'll often concede that behaviour deteriorates during cover lessons, as a rule. Now, for me, this is inextricably linked to the quality of work set, the second point there, the quality of work that's actually set within a cover lesson. And of course, as educators, we know that children, they'll behave well when they're in a lesson that is worth behaving for. So in other words, our pupils, they're not daft. They know if they're in a cover lesson and the standard of work set isn't what they deserve, they realise that very quickly. Now, that's unfair on them, but I would argue just as much it's unfair on the person standing at the front of the room. They're on hiding to nothing from minute one. If the cover of work isn't what it should be, either the covering teacher or the covering supervisor, well, they're firefighting right from the beginning. Okay, so it's crucial that the quality of work set is what it should be. The next point we've got there is subject knowledge, and for me, actually, that's not a biggie. Indeed, it doesn't really have to be an issue at all, especially if I'm covering a one-off lesson. personally, if I think back, actually, I used to really love covering a lesson in a subject I knew little or nothing about if I was learning alongside the class for an hour. And of course, that depended entirely on the work that was set. Is it stimulating? Is it interesting? Is it going to lead to a worthwhile learning experience for the children in that classroom? Next point we've got there is consistency. And again, this relates to the previous point. So if pupils know that when they walk into a cover lesson, that it will be a good use of their time, then they're going to enter into that in the right mindset, ready to learn, rather than thinking, hang on a minute, we're going to be shortchanged here, we're going to be babysat for perhaps an hour. Consistency. What do our pupils expect when they've got a cover lesson? And finally, we've got succession there. What I'm trying to refer to there is the communication, or indeed lack of it, between the covering staff member and the absent teacher. And historically, let's be honest, it just doesn't really happen because we're too busy. We've got too much going on. Unless there's a really big issue in the cover lesson, then there's not really much communication between those two people. And if we really consider it, actually, it's really, really important that the regular teacher knows how the class progressed. Where do we pick up with that class? Were there any misconceptions, etc., etc.? Okay, so they're just some points I wanted to raise. Now then, the exciting part for us, our challenge was to create a solution that would actively combat everything I've just mentioned there, while simultaneously easing the burden for our teachers, making things easier, more streamlined for our teachers, as well as the covering manager, or cover manager rather. So, excuse me, I'm just going to take a sip of water. So we collaborated with a number of secondary schools to shape Edcover. The result, I think, is a modern one-stop solution that optimizes learning, promotes dialogue, gives leadership teams a really, really clear insight as to the efficacy of cover lessons in their schools. And make no mistake, it's really, really important. We've talked about marginal gains within school improvement for years. And it's crucial that we get this right if we can, because typically between 3 and 4% of a secondary school pupil's lessons within an academic year, there will be what we commonly refer to as cover. Okay, so I've talked for quite a while now, and it's all very well me telling you this, but I thought today it'd be far more worthwhile for you to hear from a school who's actually walking the walk, as it were. So in a moment, I'm going to hand over to Angela Easton. I don't think she's going to talk for very long. I don't actually know what she's going to say. Hopefully it'll be positive, but I've just asked Angela to give us a bit of an account of the implementation of Edcover at the Hathershaw College. So if that's okay with you, Angela, I'll now hand over to you.
Yeah, that's great. Can you hear me okay, Anthony?
I can indeed.
Okay, I don't know whether you can see me, but that doesn't matter because I can talk for Britain, which is the most important thing. I won't talk for very long, but so we've been using Edcover now for a couple of years, and we needed a seamless way of getting cover materials to the right people, whether that be from poorly staff to curriculum leads, or from curriculum leads setting cover on behalf of colleagues and getting it to external supply or our internal cover staff. You know, we were constantly having big bundles of paper left with the PAs, and it was going to the wrong rooms. We were having cover work being left on desks and it not getting to the right place, as well as a re-room. So it just ended up with either external supply or our internal cover staff just being eaten alive, really, because the biggest barrier in our school anyway for cover lessons working is that the cover work is there, that it's challenging, that the cover staff has seen it before. And that's one of the beautiful things about Edcover. So nobody comes into any shocks because they can see the work beforehand and they can get off to a swift start. If you can do that, the children just think it's normal and that, okay, it's not their ordinary class teacher, but the work is there, everything's okay, we're safe, we know we've got a job to do. It's not put all our behaviour issues right in cover lessons, but it has removed so many barriers and so many uncomfortable hours that cover staff have had where they've had to think on the feet, which is really not fair. So that was our rationale for using it. We also needed, Anthony, a solution that our cover supervisor, our cover coordinator could implement herself. I have not taken 1 minute of the professional development programme to launch Edcover. Our cover coordinator, who's one of our PAs, has done this herself. She's used instructions from the Edcover platform. She's emailed them out to staff and everybody has run with it. All I've done throughout the year is just say in staff briefing every now and again, please remember, planned cover, please use Edcover. I've not had to train people, do workshops, do demos, a very simple emailed instruction sheet, and we were off and running and have been since. It's totally sustainable. It takes you seconds to put into Edcover. You have to think about what you're planning, but the AI tool is really helping with that, which I'll touch on later. But as long as you know what you're setting, the actual inputting into Edcover is simple. The platform has never failed once. It's never been offline. It's never glitched. It's never failed. When I've needed to set it, it's been there. We've had no complaints about the platform. It's very intuitive. It's just simples. It does exactly what you want it to do. It gives you your timetable. It tells you what classes you've got that day. It allows you to set your cover, submit your cover, and then you get a lovely evaluation feedback from whoever's done your cover lesson for you, all tidy and neat within the platform. It's all GDPR compliant, so we've never had any safeguarding issues with it. Curriculum leads have got an overview of what cover is, so there's no running into classrooms saying, help, what do I need? That was another burden for curriculum leaders. Somebody's off, the work's gone missing. So then curriculum leaders have had to come out of lessons and get cover printed. It just removes all of that panic. When I was talking to our cover supervisors, Anthony, what they said to me was, Angela, we can check the cover before we get to that class. So if we're feeling a bit nervous about what we're teaching, we just go have a look at the platform and see what's been set, and we know what we're doing. So staff who are not teachers, who have worked in our school for a couple of years, but they feel completely empowered because they know exactly what they've got to do. And I think I'll stop talking there for a second. Does that make sense, what I've said so far?
Absolutely, Angela. Thank you very much for that honest and frank account. You've kind of done my job for me. I don't need to show anybody the platform now.
No, I would, Anthony, because it's beautiful. I would do.
I will. I'll try and bring your words to life visually now in a moment. But thank you very much for that account. And it's really, really valuable for us, the team here, to hear that, because we create these bits of software and we hope that it makes life better for people in school. But we need to hear from you, the experts, as to the difference it makes in school. So thank you very much for that, Angela. Okay. I'm going to go on to my next slide, which will remind me that actually what we're going to do now is have a quick tour of the platform. It will be a whistle-stop tour, so I'll just do that if I may. This is the information website for Edcover, so you guys can have a look at this anytime you like. Again, it gives a bit of the rationale behind why we've created Edcover. I'm going to just log in as if I was a teacher in your school. So if I log in and I share what I want you to see, this would be a basic user license, normal teacher logging in to set their cover work, or indeed find cover work. So when we log in, it's a very clean, kind of sparse dashboard that you've got there. As a basic user, you can just set cover work or search for it if you're covering a lesson. Okay, but let's set some cover work first of all. So if I were in your school, if it was you in your school, it would come up with your own timetable by default. And by the way, it links with your MIS it syncs with it and pulls through everybody's timetable, all the class lists, etc. But it may well be that you are setting some work for a colleague, someone in your department. So I've clicked on Belinda here. She's simply too poorly to set her own work. So I've clicked on her and it brings up by default her lessons for today. Now, if she was setting her own cover for the future and she's on a year 8 residential from there to there, she can use the calendar and it'll bring up all the lessons that she needs to set cover work for. So what it does, it takes out that element of that possibility of human error. Okay, so let's leave it on today and we'll go and set some cover work. Again, the next screen shows us that very, very clearly we've got 4 lessons we need cover for. Okay, and I can see at the moment that none of these I've got work set for them because I've got big red work not set. Okay, so if we just choose one of them, I'll choose period 3 here to set some cover work for, I get this screen here. Can we see that? Yeah. Okay, now what you've got there, guys, is just a default lesson plan that you don't have to use. Often schools have got their own pro forma that they want entering there. We can do that for you. Or it may well be that actually you don't want the lesson plan at all. So you can get rid of it and not have a lesson plan at all. But the point being, you can very, very quickly, if you've got a lesson ready to go, you can drop it in there. You can drag and drop any worksheets or seating plans in there at the bottom, and away you go. Okay, and very often, as you know, teachers will have a lesson prepared to drop in there. Now, Angela mentioned a really exciting tool that we've got called the AI Assistant, and this is particularly helpful if we're setting work on behalf of somebody else, or it's our lesson and we just haven't got something to hand that's appropriate. So I know this, what was Belinda? She's a geography teacher. I used to be RE, so I'm just going to do a quick RE lesson. And I'm going to give the AI assistant a really, really basic command. Deliver a key stage 3 lesson on, let's say Passover. Okay. So quite a loose description there, just a few words. And as you'll see now, it's gone away. We've collaborated with My School AI, and I'm absolutely, every time I do this, flabbergasted with the quality of the lesson this creates for me. Well, I'm not anymore because it does it every time. But within about a minute, I'll have a great lesson that I can then drop in on the left-hand side. So I'll show you how that works in a moment. But what we're finding is that schools with Edcover, teachers are actually really enjoying using this tool now, even if they're not, going to be off or they haven't got plan cover, just simply as a time-saving tool for themselves. Okay. So because our programmers have put all the prompts in for you, it's not going to come up with anything inappropriate, etc. We know what's going to be here is always going to be accurate. And what I love is it always gives you 3 really great video suggestions from YouTube. I can remember using this one here, so I'm going to use that in a moment. But let me just show you how quick and easy this is. Basically, we just use whatever we want from this side over here. Sorry, I didn't copy that, did I? Oh, dear me. From this side over here, I'll copy that, and whatever I want, I can very simply just drop in over here. So we'll use that. And let me show you how the videos work. So if I select this video, I really love this function, and use that button, it won't just attach the video as a link. It will actually embed that video now within the lesson. Okay. Again, that's a feature that people really, really like. So I've got the video in there now, and actually if we scroll down a little bit, I've got all the rest of this fantastic content here. I've got questions during the lesson, I'm having that, plenary, I've got an extension exercise, and I've even got a quiz down here at the bottom. And take it from me, guys, that is all absolutely top quality material. So I've copy and pasted it all across. I could drop my lesson, my seating plan in there, but when I'm happy, I just save the changes and I go back to my other lessons. We can see now, if you look at the lesson that we picked, that now says work set. Okay, so very simply, I've got 3 other lessons to set work for, and then Belinda's done for the day. But that particular lesson is, I would argue, a really good one. Okay, so I could log back out now and log back in, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to pretend we've just logged in and we're covering this lesson. Okay, so we're going to search for this particular lesson, because I know I'm covering Belinda period 3 today. So I could find her here, or I could get her in the drop down menu. I know because the cover manager has told me I'm covering period 3. So I get to the classroom, log in, and here's the lesson. Okay. Now we could download this to PDF if we wanted. If we've got, you know, external supply in and we want to leave it on the desk, we can do that. But you know, it's far easier to log in and just deliver the lesson like this. Now, because it links to your MIS, we've got the children here, and if I am a permanent member of staff, I can see sensitive information like who's SEN, etc. down there. So it couldn't be simpler, guys. We just deliver the lesson. I can play the video, go through the questions, so on and so forth. Now, for me, what happens at the end is the most important part of what we do. And Angela alluded to this. Whatever your priorities are as a school, as a leadership team, whatever's in the school improvement plan, it might be behavior, attitude to learning, whatever, you can ask questions for feedback purposes on anything you want. Now, the examples we've given you there are how well was the work completed, what was attitude to learning like, but they could be whatever you want, and you can have more than 2. We've just put 2. So I'm going to put fantastic lesson, but whatever it might be. You might want to revisit the Seder meal with little Johnny because he didn't get it. But point being, when I submit that, Belinda gets that feedback. That communication has happened between me, the covering teacher or the cover supervisor, and Belinda. She knows where to pick up with this class. And as I mentioned earlier on, you as a leadership team get some really valuable metrics. So let's just have a look at that. I'm going to this time log out, log back in again, but with this time, we can do a few more bits and bobs, okay? This might be, well, it's anybody with admin rights for your school. So cover super manager, whoever on SLT needs to see this kind of stuff. Angela, I assume that you can see this in your school. We can do everything that we've just done there. So we can set cover work, we can search for it, but we also get the analytics on whatever it is we want to look at. So the feedback, what's happening in our cover lessons, we can see it. Okay. And hopefully over time, whatever questions you're asking, we're seeing a positive trajectory. Okay, so we ask questions on attitude to learning and completion of work, so we can see the metrics on that. So that's wonderful. If we're reporting to governors or inspectors, we're saying as a leadership team, we take cover seriously, and here's what we're doing about it. Okay. Cover managers, you can see other useful things, analytics on, you know, what percentage of lessons have work actually set for them. Every morning, this is a really, really great tool. We need all that to be green. Once the cover manager can see all those lessons are green, they know that the day's sorted in terms of cover work set, and everybody knows where to find it. Okay, so that was, as I said, a whistle-stop tour. I'm going to nip back to my PowerPoint now, folks, and just wind things up. I wanted to, first of all, let you know how to access the free trial of Edcover. If you want it, just get in touch via our contact page on the website. This is more for you schools that are using it already. We do have a £200 referral scheme. please do take advantage of that. If you introduce us to another school, we'd love to thank you with a £200 voucher. And what we'll do before we end is just address, let's see if there are any questions that we need to have a look at. I'll just access them very quickly. Okay. So we've got a question from Sarah. Can we just go up a little bit? Our school uses Bromcom. Would Edcover work with this? Yes. Good question, Sarah. So I know for a fact Sims, Bromcom, Arbor, there are some other MISs, and we, as far as I know, we sync with all of them. So there's no setup to be done, and you know that the timetables and the class lists, etc., they're being pulled through. They're being pulled through every day. How quickly can I get this set up in school, Kitty? As soon as you let us know that you want to go ahead with a trial, usually within 24 hours, our wonderful support team have got you set up and ready to go. Good question from Cedric. How would agency staff log into Edcover? Well, what we can do, if you've got supply teachers coming in from an external agency, for example, a school in their admin section can very simply set up supply1 at hathersshawcollege.com or whatever the address is. Okay, don't forget, if it is an agency staff member, they wouldn't be able to see that sensitive information on the children that we looked at earlier on. And I believe that's all the pressing questions that we've had to answer. But I do thank you for them. And I would once again, before we say goodbye to you all, like to thank Angela for her input. Long may your journey with Edcover continue there at the Hathershaw College, Angela, and hope to speak to you soon. So goodbye, everybody, and hope to speak to you all soon for that matter. Take care. Bye-bye.